Welcome everybody to the 16th ever GPS training podcast. So it's myself, John, and I've got Andy with me again.
Hello.
As always, we're streaming it live on Facebook, so if you don't like our Facebook page, please do just go onto Facebook and search for GPS training, and don't forget to like our page. So without further ado, let's get on with today's podcast. In our 16th podcast, we're going to look at the following. We have an interview with Mark, who's from SatMap. We discuss, as we always have to for the last few months, is the GPSMAP66s from Garmin. What a launch we had of that product. We look at our GPS courses that we've got lined up for 2019. As always, we've got Andy's top tips, both Garmin and SatMap. And then finally, after the last month, we asked what strange activities people are using their GPS units for. We've got some really good feedback from everybody, so thank you very much for that. So, Mark from SatMap. A little while ago, I chatted to Mark, who is the product manager at SatMap. Hope you agree, he's a top guy and he really knows his stuff. The next thing on today's GPS Training Podcast is an interview with Mark Ashton. You may recollect Mark was on the podcast a couple of months ago in regards to mountain rescue, and he's kindly agreed to come back, and we're going to look a little bit about SatMap because, Mark, welcome first of all to the podcast.
Thank you.
You have a bit of a role within SatMap. So how do you fit in within SatMap? And before we start, and you hold up, Facebook viewers, I'm going to hold up the SatMap Active 20 so you all know what the SatMap current GPS looks like. What's your role within this great British organisation?
So I'm product manager for a company called Burton McCall. Burton McCall are the distributors for SatMap GPS devices. We will sell them to you. And my role there is strategic planning and promotions.
That's what a product manager does, is and then report also back to manufacturing feedback.
We're the link between a manufacturers and the sales team and the end customer.
Brilliant. So if anybody's listened to our very early podcast, it was podcast number 3. We had Ross on, who you work alongside. Ross was on last year. So it's a while ago, so let's forget we never had Ross. Let's forget he was never on the podcast. Do you want to recap a little bit about SatMap, about the history of SatMap, how it came about, and where we are going today? So I know it's quite a broad question, but off we go.
So my first experience with seeing SatMap was a circuit board, a screen and a battery.
Right.
When I used to work for, let's just say, a well-known national retailer.
We won't mention them.
Okay.
But it's a colour.
Yeah, it is.
A dark colour.
A dark colour. That's where I used to work with Ross.
Right.
We used to work within the training department, and I was asked to go to Burton McCall and say they've got something that they wanted to see, wouldn't tell me what it was. And when I saw it, it was a wow moment.
Okay.
We call it that sliced bread moment because it's what everybody wanted within the GPS device.
Which is
a
colour
GPS
screen
with a colour screen with ordnance survey maps on it, which everybody used to think a GPS did, and it quite blatantly didn't. So the history of SatMap, established in 2006. Me and Ross joke about 2 guys tinkering in a shed. It was pretty much like that. So there was Richard and Howard, who both had a military background. One was in the army, one was a fast jet pilot. So it's mixing electronics with mapping. And their idea was, how can I put mapping onto a GPS device?
Do you know, when you go quickly going back to when you first saw that GPS, was it a SatMap Active 10 at that point, or was it just wires and a box? Or?
It was. I wouldn't encourage anybody to take SatMap apart, but if you took an old Active 10 apart, it was the inside. The outside weren't created at that stage, but it was the very, very first prototype of this is what it's going to do.
Right, back to where you were, sorry.
So they wanted to enter the GPS market with a GPS that had on-screen OS mapping, and they went to various places and said, I've got this idea, and people said it can be done, it'll be in excess of £1,000. Ordnance Survey would never support it because of they'd lose map sales, and that's where SatMap was created.
And then over the years, so that was a SatMap Active 10.
Active 10, yeah.
Which it did take the world by storm. You know, I was at Outdoor Show, and we had Garmin for the years, and Magellan had come into the marketplace as well. Magellan were they not the market leaders at the time? I can't remember. They were. SatMap and Magellan
were the first people to bring out a commercial handheld, and then obviously Garmin, the force they are, they dominated the market because they had multiple levels. So you'd have your old yellow E-Trex that you'd be your entry model, and then you'd have mapping devices which had topo mapping. And then along came two guys and said, we've got it with OS mapping on, and it was a wow moment. I remember the first show in Birmingham, which was astonishing, absolutely astonishing.
Because whatever you want, it is this bright screen, or comparatively bright. I know they've got bright on it at the time, but bright screen. This ordnance survey map, where before with Garmin's we were downloading topo mapping on, we were buying mapping for £150, transferring it onto our old legends and this kind of thing. And when we saw that Active 10, like, it did just completely dominate that. And really then SatMap had that market to themselves for many years, didn't they?
A number of years.
It took quite a while for anybody to get anywhere.
Well, I think you've got that 3 years where Howard and Richard were tinkering in the shed. The guys had to catch up that in a very short period of time, which they've done now. So we now take OS maps on a GPS device for granted.
So we had SatMap Active 10, then 12. What's the difference between the 10 and the 12?
So the 12, it's what SatMap try and do is bring out a device and make it future-proof. So they do lots of software developments and software upgrades rather than bring out multiple devices. So the 10 had got to its duration of life. There'd be components that we were struggling to get, primarily the screen. So we then moved to the 12, which had a higher grade processor, because as computer technology moves on, let's move with the times. So it went to a higher processor, it had a higher resolution screen, and then it had a built-in barometric altimeter, which increased accuracy.
Brilliant. And that's one thing it is with SatMap, I know you mentioned that, is it is so many software updates all the time, improving the product. It's just like a Windows computer, and you can put in new operators. It really does. I see that difference as someone who looks across different brands, how quickly things evolve, because they look at an waterproof computer and they keep just putting software updates in there. So Active 10 and Active 12 is, as a HD screen barometric altimeter. And then we had a real, I'm going to say a long spell without any updates. And then we got the Active 20, which really again shook up the market.
It's kick-started it again massively. The Active 20 has been in development behind the scenes for an awful long time, with a huge amount of investment on technology. Because one of the things that we get an awful lot of credit for is a unit that runs using buttons. We have a certain customer demographic that don't want touchscreen and they want buttons. But most modern day technology now, if you look at smartphones, everything is touchscreen driven. And if we go into a demo, the first thing that people start doing is tapping the screen, and your first line is, it's not touchscreen, it's buttons. So do we move from a button device to a touchscreen device? And we got some customer feedback from people we know and gear reviewers where, whatever you do, don't do that. Okay, I think we need to do that. So we've been developing technology that will do both.
So it is that. People don't know, SatMap Active 20 is got touchscreen and buttons, and also it's got this fantastic HD map, which again is it takes a little while to load initially, doesn't it? But once it's there, it's phenomenal with that HD.
I mean, so the big move from 10 to 12, we discussed the processor screen, etc. The move into the 20 is the dual control, so you've got buttons or touchscreen. You can switch the touchscreen off if you don't want to use the touchscreen at all. It's now got, again, the fastest processor we can get at that size, so it's now ludicrously fast compared to the old devices. We've added Gorilla Glass, so it's got a huge amount of resilience to scratches on the screen, and it's just brought the unit up to a completely different level durability wise. Because the Achilles heel of the old devices is there were open doors where you could put map cards in really easily, and as soon as you put a rubber open door, then water can get in just as easily. So now it's completely submergible in water if you really wanted to. That's more importantly if you're crossing a stream and you get this in your pocket or you drop it. And it's also a lot more drop proof than it used to be. So the old devices, you used to have the Pro Shield, which was the rubber silicone case, which got you the durability, but you did lose a little bit of dexterity around the buttons.
And the key thing, which is this Galileo. So currently it's the only outdoor GPS unit to utilise Galileo, which is the European satellite system that's there. So that's been fantastic.
So again, within the development, the aerial within the GPS is in the top
He's holding it up for the Facebook users. If you listen to the
You can see
podcast,
it.
you can't see he's holding up SatMap Active 20. Yeah.
So if you Google a SatMap image where the SatMap logo is at the top, the aerial is beneath that. And it looks a little bit like a Nicorette patch,
All right, okay.
slightly thicker, but you can get them in various different sizes. So we've gone for the biggest size chipset we can get. That gives you the ability to track satellites much, much quicker because you've got a bigger surface area looking for it. And yes, it will track the GPS system in the US.
Yeah.
It will track Galileo in Europe, and it will also do GLONASS in Russia.
Russian one as well, yeah. It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's just absolutely startling the accuracy of that unit. It's,
I mean,
even indoors, you're getting like accuracy of like a few feet. It's just something we've never experienced. And also that Galileo is so much quicker to log on and this kind of thing.
Yeah, it's very quick. I mean, the important thing there is it doesn't use one set of satellites at a time. It will mix all of them together. So if you go into dense tree cover, the more satellites you go in with, the more chance you've got of holding that. So in my time of using Active 20, I've never lost a satellite log.
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable. And the other key thing as well is this battery. It's absolutely humongous. I suspect it would be half the weight of the unit, is it?
It is. But the downside of any GPS device is if the battery runs out, it stops working. So let's put the biggest battery we can. Battery technology has moved on, so we're now using lithium polymer batteries. It's 5,000 milliamps for people who like numbers. For people who don't like numbers, it'll run all day on a single.
And if we put that into comparison, really, if you get some good quality AA rechargeable batteries, they're usually 2,300, 2,500. You can get 2,800. So we're kind of near enough twice the batteries of we can understand the AA batteries, can't we?
And then as accessories, you can get spare LiPo batteries. So if you're going on a big trip, you can take 2 sets of batteries. You can get AA battery caddies. So if you do want to go to the AA rechargeables or the disposable AA's, you could do. Or you could always run it from a power bank. And if you're on a really long trip, a power bank and a solar panel.
And we can power it off that, can't we? So the key thing with SatMap is these accessories. And the nice thing they've done is gone and buddied up with another company, Quadlock, and they've brought this accessory, or the group of accessories together. People don't know how this works. There's actually a plate on the back of the SatMap. You replace that with a slightly different plate, what we call a back plate, and then this Quadlock, literally, as it says, and it's like just Quadlock into the back of it, twist into the back of it. So why did they go down this line, and what are the benefits of Quadlock, really?
So historically, the biggest selling accessory for the Active 10 and Active 12 was the bike mount, and you're right, we used to pretty much produce that ourselves with help of a few other people. It used to be really robust, really strong, but it used to sit off the handlebars quite a long way, which you used to get quite a lot of criticism for, and it couldn't be changed. So when we developed the Active 20, we looked at putting a different base plate on it to make it sit closer to the bike, and then worked in conjunction with Quadlock, who are based in Australia, who do a whole range of attachments for bikes and car mounts and bits and pieces like that. And it's really simple. It's push a button, twist it on, and it's on. You can take it off just as quickly, but once it's on, it won't come off. It deals really, really well with vibration if you're on a mountain bike or a road bike. And as testament to that, Howard, who's the MD at SatMap, in the summer went and rode 12 stages of the Tour de France.
Wow, brilliant.
Using an Active 20 to record everything he'd done. So you don't need to work out how far 12 stages of the Tour de France was, and it survived that without any trouble.
Some speed down some of those hills as well. So
Crawl up, speed down.
We give them some tips. So they are really good. I really like those. It's nice if people don't know. You see the Quadlock do accessories for iPhones and smartphones. It's a universal thing. And I think in the accessory world, it is one of the best mounting.
Oh, completely.
It's
on a bike.
Compact. It looks really good.
Yeah, particularly on a bike, because then it just sits in front of you. It'll record your track. If you've got a route built into it, you can watch where you're going.
That's fantastic. So, as we mentioned a bit earlier on, the key thing with the SatMap is the number of software updates and developments. It seems to be like literally every week. There's another one this week. I know we're recording this in summertime. We're going to release this near Christmas. But there was another software update this week. It's completely like this waterproof computer. Keep adding software updates to all the time, evolving. I know some of these are fixing bugs as any piece of devices happens, modern devices do. But adding new features to it and this kind of thing. Is this going to continue forever, or are we going to stop it when we get it?
I'd like to think it'll continue for the life of the Active 20 until we get the next SatMap, which, you know, don't worry, it's going to be a long way off because we've got a lot of scope with what we've got now. One of the big benefits is we're based in the UK, based in Leatherhead. We've got offices there. People can phone us, email us, good or bad, because we get feedback from both of them. We've done work with the military. We've done an awful lot of work with mountain rescue teams.
Yes.
So on the Active 12, we put on areas of interest and lines of interest. Most of that has come from mountain rescue requirements for searching and things like that, but it gives us the ability to upgrade the device and make it more user friendly or more focused on professional users.
I think that's the big thing, is actually because it's that British company, when something happens, it happens quite quickly, and actually that hits the market quite quickly.
We will log every phone call or email, so we can't do everything.
No.
So if you phone up and say, I wish you did this, we probably can't do one-offs, but we'll record that call of, could it do this? And if it comes up regularly, then we'll put the software engineers, can we get it to do this without affecting something else? And if we can do it, then we'll do it.
And it gets updated, which is really good. And then recently we've had the new Expedition 2 planning software. So Expedition is the route planning software that SatMap users use. It's an online-based route planning software, isn't it? So you log in, you get it, when you get uni, you get it free for a year, and then you pay a small subscription after that, don't you? So we've had Expedition, was that 10, 12? When did that come out? Quite early on?
That came out during the 12.
During the 12 Expedition. And then we've been waiting for some time, but thankfully the Expedition 2 has come out, which is also Mac friendly as well, because that was the other thing, Expedition 1 didn't work that well on the Mac, and the new one does. So what are the key features that the Expedition 2 has compared to the Expedition 1?
So Expedition 1 was primarily focused at giving you the ability to see your maps on a screen, draw a route on a PC, and then transfer it to the device using a secondary piece of software called SatSync, which converted a GPX file, which if anybody uses mapping software will be familiar with, into a .map file, which most people won't be familiar with. So SatMap 10s and 12s used to work in a .map file, and that was mainly based around the early days of the units, OS being worried about the replication of maps.
Right, okay.
So we needed to write the mapping software in a format that couldn't be copied. So we used a .map format, which at that time was fine.
And you were pioneering, there was a new
completely.
New
but now, as you can get more and more online software or PC software, which does OS maps, everybody now uses a GPX format. So the new Active 20 will import and export GPX files quite happily. So the new Expedition 2 uses GPX format rather than .map format.
Right.
If you have got a 10 or a 12, it'll still work, and that software will still convert from map to GPX and vice versa automatically. It's been a while coming because Windows dropped Silverlight. Just at the point we'd almost finished and launched HTML5, so we had to just go back and almost start from scratch again.
Because I suppose that's the thing, is because it's being access to a browser, what happens in the browser world affects you.
Oh yeah, completely. Particularly when Mac do their software or their changes, there's a lot of catch up there. But things that the new Expedition 2 will do, I won't go into all of it because we could do a whole podcast for a day. It's huge, but one of the big things is using data from open source mapping to be able to click to track. So
and this is going to be across the whole path network or just within national parks?
It'll do the whole of the world. The reason being is we're using. We had two choices. Do we use open source information or do we use the OS data?
Because the OS data is just national parks.
So currently it's only national parks. They are looking, from what I can gather, to expand that, but we don't know how long that's going to take. And looking at the open source mapping, if you're walking in lakes or Wales, let's use the Brecon Beacons because I know it very, very well. Almost all the trodden paths in the beacons are on open source mapping. So that sat underneath your OS map that you'll see on the screen, you can click point A and point B. Point B can be 5 or 6 miles away, and the open source route will click to a footpath to get you between those 2 points.
Brilliant.
And then the OS map hovers on top of it, so it uses the open source mapping for doing the route, and the map, the OS,
so you can see what you want to see.
Because
That's the key thing there.
yes, there are slight variations, but it's so slight
Yeah,
you wouldn't notice it.
that's exactly right. And this is going to appear on tablets in the future? Is it iPads and things?
Yeah,
or?
so the benefit of HTML5 is it will run across multiple platforms.
Right.
So it will do laptops, PCs, Mac, iPad. It will even work on smartphones. And then the ability to link your Active 20 using the Wi-Fi and use your phone as a hotspot.
Yeah.
We're looking to be able to put snap to route planning onto the device.
Because that's currently the moment. You can only use SatMap if you've got a Wi-Fi capability as connected to the Wi-Fi. But as you're saying, hopefully, as most of us can on smartphones now, make a hotspot, and then you can piggyback on the back of that. That's just that's not far away. That's going to be just down the line. Really.
And that's been thought about when we brought out the Active 20 to try and make it as future-proof as possible.
And do you think that, is this the way SatMap, since you say about Ordnance Survey, potentially we could have routable data outside national parks in the future, do you think SatMap would then go that way, or do you think we'll carry on using the open source data? Is there any thought? Has this been, it must have been thought about?
It will have definitely been thought about. I think we'll make a call of how long it will take to do and how national it is.
Yeah.
The benefit of open source is it's worldwide.
Yes,
so if you go to Spain, France, Italy, it will do it there as well.
Because that's the big thing with SatMap is that they've got really good overseas mapping as well, haven't they?
The map catalogue is huge.
It is
absolutely huge, and they have the ability to digitise a paper map.
Yeah.
So it's one of the services that SatMap do. They probably don't do it that often now because they've got a lot more mapping data than they used to have. But you could send a map to them, as long as it could be geo-referenced, they can put it onto a device.
And the nice thing is as well, they actually will do bespoke maps. I know we've had customers who want, I want this Irish mapping. Oh, why don't we stick on the same map card for you? So if you are wanting that SatMap mapping, you've got a SatMap and you want something a little bit different, give us a shout, because I think you can make up the map cards as people want them according to their specific. I know there's going to be limitations there, but
yeah, I mean we can now get the whole country in 3 different scales, so 1 to 50,000, 1 to 25,000. And 1 to 10,000 mapping on a single SD card, which is astonishing. I mean, that's where technology has moved on.
Yeah.
So we can now do almost anything with any map card.
Yeah, it is. It's a really good thing. So brilliant. All right, Mark, that's been fantastic. Have a quick chat about the SatMap. SatMap as a whole. SatMap Active 20 is the current device. If people haven't seen it, just go and have a look at our website, which is gpstraining.co.uk. Click on GPS Training Store and then click on SatMap GPS units. We actually do the 3 bundles. I don't know if you're aware of this, not SatMap, but we do it with the what's called the Platinum version, which is 1 to 10, 1 to 25, and 1 to 50, which is what you were discussing there. We do it at 1 to 50,000. We do the solo units because people got an Active 12. They could transfer those maps over, and sometimes it has to be converted. We also bundle it just with a 125,000 mapping as well, so we buy it as a separate product and bundle that separately as well. So there's plenty of options there, different map options.
The value within the top packages, so the premium packages, is the value is within that map card.
It is.
If you bought that on paper, you're into thousands and thousands of pounds.
Yeah. So it's good. Yeah, it's good to have those different map sets there. So get in touch with ourselves, and thank you, Mark, for joining me on the GPS Training podcast. And again, if there's any questions or anything else, just drop us an email, and I can forward those on to Mark, and hopefully you can answer them or bring them up with SatMap. Cheers.
Perfect.
The next thing on the podcast this month is a look at the GPSMAP66s. What a start. We've had some great feedback. As you must be seeing, you've been following us on GPS Chain. We've really had a fantastic launch to the 66s. So, Andy, what do you think? What have we learned anything over the last month? Is there anything that you've kind of picked up with the 66s and when you've been speaking to customers and you've learned yourself? What are the key things that you've learned over the last 4 weeks, really, or 2 weeks?
And the customers who have been using a push-button unit from Garmin before have liked the bigger screen because it's got the bigger screen with the more pixels. It's looking great in the sunlight, the screen, so I've had some good feedback on the screen. I've had a couple of customers who do nighttime walking. Of course, this time of year, with the clocks changing, they've liked the backlit buttons. So I've had a good response from the backlit buttons. And the one thing I've liked when I've been using it, just because I'm so used to it on the newer touchscreen units, is this start and stop with the track recording rather than it always recording. We set the units up if you buy a unit from ourselves, so you're pressing that enter button when you're on the map page to say start recording, and then stopping it and saving it rather than just having it record constantly. I've quite liked that new feature as well.
Brilliant. I was out with it last Sunday, so the first time I was out for a lovely walk, just a walk locally, and I was playing a lot with the Galileo because we can either have GPS and GLONASS or GPS and Galileo. Those are the two options. So I know I had a little bit of play with that. It was quite interesting that when I was using the Galileo, I was actually 1 foot less accurate than I was with the GLONASS. But I know there was a software update on Monday, wasn't there? I think that's sorted.
Was it a couple of things we found? The Galileo is really to future-proof the unit because the satellites aren't all up and running yet. So what we found is I've actually been recommending to customers that they leave it set as GPS and GLONASS, which is how we've been sending them out. But don't be too despondent with that because the Galileo satellites are very new and they're just starting to sort of turn them on. So I think we're going to see that accuracy improve. But the one thing John's mentioned that he knows I've discovered, what we found is if you use a program called Garmin Express, which is a free download from Garmin, if you search on whatever browser you're using, put Garmin Express on your computer with the GPSMAP66s plugged in. When you ask Garmin Express to check for updates, we've noticed this new update that comes through. I think it's been once a week I've seen an update, but it's called GNSS update.
Right.
And what I've learned is what that update is, it's letting the GPS device know the current location of the satellites from a NASA system, I believe.
Okay.
So what I'd recommend to customers with the 66S is use Garmin Express every week. Just check to see if there's any updates.
Right.
And what you'll find is it'll put that information into your GPS so that when you're outside you should get a quicker fix because the GPS knows exactly the positioning of the satellites from this NASA website, I believe.
Right, okay. Because that was the issue. When I was out, I was just getting... It's the first GPS we'd be able to see what on each of the satellite systems, which satellite is picking up. And I know when I was on the Galileo, it was just picking up 4 satellites. I was amazed that on the GLONASS, it was picking up maybe 10 or 12, and it was getting 1 foot less accuracy with the 4 satellites than it was the 12 on the GLONASS. So I think when all those come in and we get all the satellites and you say it located, it is going to be...
It's the future-proof it, yeah. I mean, one thing, it's worth it, if you have got the new 66S from us, this is the final thing on the satellites that we discovered that we've not seen before. If you actually go to the main menu and select the satellite icon, when you're on the satellite icon, if you press your key button, the one to the right or left, it scrolls between 2 satellite pages and it shows you what the GPS satellites are you're locked onto and what either the GLONASS are or the Galileo ones, depending how you've set it up. But I think for the minute, I would recommend in the system and satellite setting, you set it up as GPS and GLONASS.
Well, I say we've had I've never seen a GPS sell as quickly as this one has. I think the history is, I think a lot of people had 66s, 62s, then 64s. Quite a loyal customer who likes that button GPS unit, and with the larger screen and everything, I think they went for it. No, they don't want that touch screen unit. And again, we've actually had a few Oregon 700, 750 customers actually trading their Oregons for...
Because they've now got a push button with a bigger screen.
Yeah, it's been hugely popular. So thank you very much who's people who's bought it, either pre-bought it from ourselves or bought it since then. And so we've got loads still in stock. We've been getting them in. So yeah, thank you for everybody who's done that. We had a phenomenally busy day on launch day. I don't know if people kept up with the live videos that we did. But those now been embedded on YouTube, and you'll find those on our website. So yeah, have a look on our website. So if you want to find out more about the Garmin GPSMAP66s and 66ST, please just visit our website, which is gpstraining.co.uk. Click on GPS Store, then handheld GPS units, and you will see the GPSMAP66s and T versions units for the full GB maps. Next thing on the GPS Training podcast this month is our GPS training courses for 2019. What are the locations of our physical courses? I've just put this in because this last week we just started, well, just finishing populating the courses for next year, Andy, haven't we? So one change of location, and we've we've moved a couple around over the last year. So Andy does the Lakes course in Mongrisdale, so we do SatMap and Garmin over there, don't we?
Yes, that's in the north of the lakes, just in between Keswick and Penrith. Nice location, nice village hall, Mongrisdale.
Mongrisdale has a lovely, absolutely superb village hall, isn't it? It's a really nice, great location, some nice walking from the doorstep. Accommodation nearby, far from Keswick. I was over there a couple of weeks ago, I just stayed in Keswick, it's just 10 minutes drive away. Burley Hall, New Forest. So Ian does the course down there, doesn't he? Which is again really nice. That was New Forest that we brought in 2 years ago. We started that course, which has been hugely popular, hitting that southwest side of the country. A new course for last year was Great Cansley in Northamptonshire. which again we did that because the shared forest course would kind of closed down because we had problems with the room there, or they were knocking down the classroom. So we've moved. We've got a Northamptonshire course there, and we now next year we're doing SatMap courses there, and also going back to the New Forest, we've got SatMap courses there. A new course last year was EM in the Peak District, which I go and do. So EM in the Peak District, again, really nice. That's at the youth hostel there. Got a really good classroom there, and it's a good one. New for next year, Andy, is Peebles. I was up there
Scotland
2 weeks ago, Scottish Borders. I was up there 2 weeks ago, just checking out the classroom there. Really nice. I don't know if people know Peebles. It's about the same size Rothbury is. So again, plenty of hotels there. There's places to eat and drink, and lovely down by the riverside there. So I'm up there, and I'm going to go maybe just in the new year do some final bit of recce up there. So if you are, Peebles is really nice for people of the Glasgow, Edinburgh. It's not all that far away. Plus you've got all those border towns and villages there. And then Clayton and Kingston in the South Downs, which we do have those two locations according to which rooms that we get. And Ian, who's he does all our courses up to Northamptonshire, delivers those courses there.
Tell you where we missed Rothbury. You didn't
Rothbury?
mention
Rothbury,
where we are,
Northumberland,
Northumberland.
Of course.
So we do a course in Rothbury, a few courses in Rothbury. If anyone wants to come and see where we are.
Yeah, so we do those actually at our base, and we do SatMap and Garmin courses there. So quickly, Andy, SatMap course is a one-day course, isn't it?
Yeah, SatMap 1 day course on using the unit. We don't do a 2 day course on the SatMap because the software planning is an online program, and you end up killing the internet and you're relying on an online server. So what the thing is, though, if you come on our SatMap 1 day course, you'll learn how to use the unit. We'll give you a demonstration of the software, but you get to go away with 1 year's access to our online training course, which is full of videos on using the planning software.
That's brilliant. And then the Garmin course, Andy, is 2 days, isn't it?
The Garmin's a 2 day because we're able on the second day to do the base camp Garmin planning software. Because it's not an online program, it means it can be preloaded on computers. We're not relying on a third-party server or internet access, so we can reliably train on the Garmin planning software on the day 2 of the course.
Yes, the first day is just solely on the unit, and there's a little bit of demonstration on Garmin Basecamp, isn't there? And the second day is solely.
Yeah, if you want to learn about Basecamp software, you come on both days and do day 2 as well.
And if people don't know what Basecamp is, Andy?
That's free planning software you download from Garmin that lets you plan routes to send your Garmin GPS and manage any tracks that you've got saved in your unit as well.
Fantastic. So the majority of those courses are on the website. There's not that many.
There's not many more to go. I've got the Peebles one will be on this morning, the first one, and we've got at least, I think, more. The first 6 or 7 months of courses are on there now. Just a few more to go on.
Yeah, so if you are going to think about the Garmin one, please try and go on for both days, because again, we do get people who just go on one day or the second, and it does kind of slow the course down a bit, because it is really a 2 day course. Yeah. We do it so people can split it. They've got family, parties or something to go to, but the majority of people do tend to go for that 2 days, don't they?
Yeah, definitely.
So that's it. So there's myself, Andy, and Ian down south, and we have a guy called Martin as well who helps us on the Lake District ones. So again, you'll see one of us on the GPS training course, and it's like-minded people getting together, and we are quite flexible in what we learn. So if you've got any specific things you want covering, let us know when you book, and the trainer will cover that within it. Next thing on the GPS Training Podcast is Andy's top tips. So Andy, your SatMap top tip for this month.
Yep, so my SatMap top tip is to do with some recent software updates on the newer Active 20 unit. I've had a few customers, and actually someone on a course in the Lake District a couple of weeks ago asked me about the route colour. When you're navigating a route on the Active 20, the default route colour is quite pale. It's like a pale yellow, and some customers were struggling to see that. A new feature they've added with some of the recent software updates on your SatMap Active 20, if you go into your main menu in your settings, there's a new menu called Route Rendering.
Okay.
If you go into Route Rendering, you've got a couple of nice choices. The obvious one is normal route colour, and if you either touch down on the normal route colour or use the joystick and press down in the middle of the joystick, you get this lovely hexagon appear with every colour of the rainbow. It's just masses of colours, and you can move the joystick and select the colour you would like to see as your normal route colour. And one thing I like that SatMap have added, they have this option called completed route colour, so that as you move over your route, it changes colour the bit you've completed, which is nice if you've got routes that are crisscrossing. You know that you've already completed a bit. So it's just a reminder, SatMap Active 20, if you've been updating your unit using SatSync software or Wi-Fi, go to your main menu, settings, and the option called route rendering, and you can change your route colour.
Very good. Garmin top tip, Andy?
Garmin top tip, it's something that comes up quite a bit, but it's that time of year when weather isn't as nice. We start getting, mind you, in this country we could get rain all year round, but you've got the potential of snow and hailstone as we get into the winter. Customers with touchscreen units, we always recommend when you get this time of year, especially if you're using it on a bike where it's open to the elements, if it starts hailstoning, you can get some funny effects on the touchscreen of the unit, but there's a simple way to overcome this, which is lock the screen. So on the touchscreen units on a Garmin, it's the same on all the new touchscreen units. You push the power button once and you get to a menu where there's a padlock icon at the very bottom of the screen. It looks like a locked padlock. So you touch that padlock icon, locks the screen, stops it. The map will still move as you move, it's still recording. And when you want to unlock the screen to have a look at it, you just repeat the process, press the power button once and touch the unlock padlock symbol. So great if it is starting to snow and hailstone, it means you can still have it in your hand and you're not worried about funny touches on the screen from the hail bouncing off the touch screen.
That's brilliant. So that's Andy's SatMap and Garmin top tips. So his SatMap is changing the colour of the route and rendering, and his Garmin top tip is locking that screen, especially with hailstone around on the touchscreen GPS units. Now, after last month's podcast, we discussed some of the strange activities people are using their outdoor GPS units for. So thank you very much for everybody who's got in touch. I can't go over because we've got quite a few emails, but I'm just going to go over a few that we had a big smell at. Ian's got a great mention in this week's month's podcast, isn't he? So
you need to get Ian interviewed.
Let's get Ian on it, what we see. Ian sent an email saying on a number of the courses he's had some interesting ones. He's had ultra marathon runners, which I know we've spoken to in this past. He's had a research scientist for smooth-skinned snake in the New Forest. They must have been plotting where the snakes are. And he's had a member of the British Antarctic Survey on one of his courses as well. So that's 3 ones. So thanks, Ian, for sending those through. We had a guy called Stephen Turner who sent a really nice email through. And he's saying he's using it in Zambia and Zimbabwe to identify the positions of existing and proposed boreholes in these countries to improve village water supplies. He says he used it a lot for hiking in the UK as well, and he says many thanks for a good service and an excellent website. So thank you very much. That's really good to see it's being used for a great cause there, Andy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I had another nice one from a guy called Tony Addy, which just came through yesterday actually. So thanks, Tony. I was just actually putting the running order together yesterday morning for the podcast, and your email came pinging through, and I thought this is really good one. He's a photographer, so he's a very keen photographer, and he uses it to add location coordinates to the data on his JPEG and RAW files when he started taking pictures. Now, it's quite technical, this. He said, none of my current cameras, both the Nikon SLR, Lumix FZ200 and Fuji F30, have inbuilt GPS location. We relied on extracting the timecode data from the Garmin GPX file and loading this together with the photographs to edit this in a program called Hudar GOV5.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on, Andy, you must know that program.
I think I did talk to Tony about this. I think I did have a look at the program, but it's something that it's a program you can use to take a Garmin GPX file and link it to your photographs. So you if you've got a GPS that hasn't got a camera, and of course in Tony's case he's using professional cameras to take photographs, linking them to a position. Yeah.
So he's got an Oregon 750 that he purchased from nearly a year ago. It's actually just come up a year ago. And he said, Andy was extremely helpful in helping me decide which model to replace my GPSMAP66s, who purchased from our predecessor, which is Peter Judd, several years ago. So thanks that for Tony, and I'm glad you're using it in a nice technical way there. And finally, thank you for listening to this month's podcast. I must quickly say thank you very much for their kind words. We did a special podcast in the middle of the month with my interview with Duncan, and I have some really kind words about that, and a lot of people it's just a slightly different podcast, and some people liked some of the questioning I had, so I appreciate that feedback. It is very much appreciated, and it has been downloaded a massive amount of times, so it's been a hugely popular one to be downloaded, so thank you very much for all your kind words about that. If you've not listened to it, just go back to the previous podcast and you listen to my interview with Duncan Hutchinson, who's the guy who built his own boat and has rowed across the Atlantic in it. So then, many thanks for listening to us and letting us what we've covered in this month's podcast. This is our 16th podcast. Please do give us a call, especially if you're thinking of buying a new GPS unit. And please do take a look at both our physical GPS training courses and also our webinars. Just go to our website, which is gpstraining.co.uk, and click on GPS training courses. Please do tell your friends about the podcast and about GPS training. And don't forget, you can watch a recording of us recording our podcast on our Facebook page, which is GPS Training UK, or on our YouTube channel, which is just GPS Training. And don't forget to RST our podcast, which is rate our podcast on iTunes. Please do this, it really does help. And thank you for the people who have rated it. It helps it rank up in iTunes. And please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you listen to. And finally, please do tell a friend about both GPS Training and the GPS Training podcast. Please help us spread the word. Any help is very much appreciated. So many thanks, Andy, for joining me on this, the 16th ever GPS Training podcast.
Thank you.
And whatever you're going to do in November, have a good time and get out there and enjoy your walking.